So it's a really interesting approach that the government or the people who have decided your syllabus have taken, because they start off with benefits of IT. They start off with how ICT is applied in our lives. We started off yesterday. I mean, we started with that yesterday. And the entire syllabus, the last lesson for grade 11, finishes off with the demerits of ICT. So we have quite a few demerits of ICT, and that is not only because of ICT alone, but it is because of how it is used, and it is used in quite an inappropriate way. So let's see. And the important thing is you and I, not exactly me, but you guys are the upcoming generation. Y'all can make a change. I believe that y'all can make a change. And that change starts with us. We have to inculcate that change in you. We have to teach you to see the things differently. We have to teach you to understand things differently and go forward. Okay. So let's get going. Issues in ICT. So first, your book talks about the different security issues that you come across. For example, data theft. Data theft is where somebody steals all your information. It could be your username, your passwords, your bank account details, and your relevant PIN. And basically, this is done by spying on you or through a spyware, right? So, what are the things that you can do to overcome or to not to be caught to being your identity being stolen? So why people steal your data is because they want to steal your identity and use it for their advantage. Why do you think they do this? How many of y'all are on Instagram? Please raise your hands. Right, that's quite a number of you. So only yesterday on Instagram I posted how somebody steals your information, how you being an oversharer can lead to you being the cause of your identity being stolen, right? So if you are on Instagram, please go visit the Learning Hub Sri Lanka, the Learning Hub SL on Instagram, and the very first video on there is what I'm talking about. Somebody goes through this person's entire profile, entire account, and finally creates one. And another incident that I recently experienced personally was somebody created a fake Facebook profile under my name. Only thing is the details weren't as accurate. My profile is on the settings are quite high. The security settings are high. But I'm sure it's somebody who knows me very, very well, because they had used my WhatsApp profile picture to as my Facebook profile picture, as the fake Facebook profile picture. And also they had added up around 81 friends, out of which 51 were mutual. And from the remaining, more than half were people of Bishop's College. That is where I studied. So that was something that led me to believe that it was somebody who knew me well, and as the bio they had put something to do with a hardworking person, things like that. And then even my date of marriage, so I was married in 2016, but in December, but this person didn't know the exact date or year. He or she went on to put it as 2020 December. So, and I got to know this in January. So it was like not even been a month. Somebody probably who doesn't know me too well, but somebody who knows me and who's within my circle. So sometimes we ourselves become the reason. If we become too trusting, that also can happen. So always keep your data safe. Don't write down your passwords anywhere. Don't save your passwords anywhere. Keep them in your memory at all times. And then we talk about hacking. Okay. Hacking is no big deal in Sri Lanka, but in developed countries it is. Okay. Um, there's even laws that prevent you from being hacked. There's laws that are brought forward to make sure that perpetrators are uh, punished. And in UK, there is a law called the computer, uh, uh, called the, hold on, can't remember. It's called CMA, something, C something Act. So anyway, it has 3 clauses. Even if you are found with the intention to hack, you are punished. If you are caught in the act, if you are found guilty, you are hacked and you are punished. And thirdly, if you are if you have been caught manipulating data and making changes, again, you will be punished. So there are 3 different clauses. You can't say, I'm sorry, I didn't do anything. I was just trying to use your computer. So even if you had the intention of doing it, yes, you would be threatened. So hacking can be prevented to a certain extent by not sharing your password with others. You need to make sure that you're using a firewall, right? A firewall can be hardware or software firewalls, but like I said yesterday, a hardware firewall is much safer, but it is far more expensive than a software firewall. All your computers come with an inbuilt software firewall because it wants to anyway prevent you from any kind of vulnerabilities. But since it's a software and can be accessed remotely, the chances of you or the chances of the firewall software being taken down is pretty high. So it's always better to go for a hardware firewall in case you are a large organization, in case you are an organization that has very sensitive data. Okay. Violation of intellectual property. What is intellectual property? Who can tell me what is intellectual property? Anybody? What is intellectual property? Can I ask? Hold on. Let me see who I want to talk to today. Tariq, what is intellectual property? Yes. What is intellectual property? Tahira, can you tell me what is intellectual property? Don't make it boring. Nidaganda bear matat.
Personal property. That is.
Okay, go ahead.
That cannot be touched.
Okay. Yeah. Anna, right.
Ideas.
Okay. Anna, there you are. So intellectual property is an output of our thought process. Your ideas, your words. No, Tariq, I didn't hear you. Your words, your thoughts, your ideas, your implementations. Now, for example, the Learning Hub, right? Everybody does classes, yes, but it's once in a while that a group of people get together for a common objective and decide to take it to the next level. Okay, so let's say myself, my husband, and a friend of mine, the three of actually it was my husband and myself first. So Learning Hub is our brainchild. It's our intellectual property. Yes, I know, like I said, everybody is doing it, but our objective for doing it is different. Okay, our objective is to help and touch as many students' lives as possible irrespective of your financial backgrounds, irrespective of your life, irrespective of your backgrounds, period. Okay, so we had a concept where we wanted to do classes for girls only. Okay, we do the normal class. So if girls feel like they're not comfortable studying with the boys around, then they can talk to us and we can arrange a class where it's only females. The teacher is also a female, and the uh, students in the class are also females. So it's very rare that you get a group of people who want to do something like that, who want to study in a ladies only environment. But later on, it became a thing. Okay, even somebody who worked with us as part of our team, he went and started it off. That is what you mean by violation of intellectual property rights. So if your product, if the output of your thought process is a physical product, is a tangible product, then you can obtain a patent license for it. Okay, you can obtain a patent for it, so that if anybody tries to copy it, or if anybody tries to take it, they will be punished duly. And if they want to use it, right, they have to get your permission and pay you something that is called a royalty fee. Okay, so each time they use the product, let's say, let's think of something that has a patent. It is there in our country, but it is not used because, like I said, these kind of things, IT in terms of law is very less here in Sri Lanka. Okay, there was a girl who manufactured a butt packet, a butt kole, butt packet එක උතන කොලේ. It was a combination of a kehel kola, it was a combination of a plastic, and it was a combination of cloth. The whole concept there was, it was reusable. So she had gone forward and obtained a patent for it to make sure that nobody else steals it, but the product is not used. Probably the cost of manufacturing might be high. I don't know. I'm assuming. But still, it is something that you can really use, and the impact on the environment would reduce drastically. Because imagine how many people out there, after eating a packet of rice, they throw away that polythene piece. Okay, but by doing something like this, if you make it reusable, for sure you can save a lot of uh, issues that the environment faces. Okay, if your idea it comes in a form in comes under an intangible form, if it is a movie, if it is a song, if it is a picture, a logo, a trademark, you could obtain what you call a copyright or a registered trademark. Okay, so if somebody tries to steal that, we call it a copyright infringement, because they try to steal what you try to do. Now sometimes in Google as well, when you search for some pictures, you can't copy them, you can't copy them and paste them where you want. It just stays, and it wouldn't come. Certain pictures have a trademark or have a watermark beneath it to say who this picture belongs to, right? Now, a good probably 80% of the pictures that are used here, do you think they are my own? Are they my own pictures? No, it's not, right? So it's something that I just copied off the internet to keep the things interesting. Fake brands coming under this category is probably something like a violation of or a copyright infringement. So we've heard of something called Adibas, Mikey instead of Nike. So if you go to PETA, you will see these, right? There's so much of brands that they've tried to imitate somebody else. They've tried to imitate somebody else, but obviously if you know it, you can figure it out. Now recently we went into a clothing store where they had polo shirts, so it looked very nice from the outside. They had t-shirts, they had shirts of different colors. So we went in and we started taking a look at these clothes, and the minute my husband took them onto his hands, he felt that they were not the original polo. So what people tend to do is they sew their own shirts and they put the logo on it and try to sell it. Same happened with some office pants a couple of months ago, actually last August. He prefers to wear moose pants, so we tried to get them, but they were just normal pants with the moose logo stitched onto it. All right. So all these are violation of intellectual property, copyright infringement, but like I said, in Sri Lanka, it's no big deal. Every corner you see, somebody is copying another person's movie and sharing it with another. Actually, it's not allowed, but we still do it, right? So that is the level of legal issues in terms of Sri Lanka. Computer fraud. What you do is you probably use somebody's computer, or maybe the computer of your school, and you try to change your marks. You alter your marks. You do something in a way that it will affect you either positively or if it affects somebody negatively. So computer frauds have to be prevented by making sure the computers are safe, the software within it is made safe, use passwords, have user role authentications. Say if you, now in a school, there's a hierarchy, okay? Now hierarchy in the sense, okay, you have your principal. And underneath your principal, you will have your vice principal. And below your vice principal, you will have a series of sectional heads. Okay, I'm sorry, that was a very messy drawing. Okay, you will have a preschool sectional head. If you have a preschool, you will have a primary sectional head. Okay, and you will have what do you call it? I forgot what we called it back in school. A middle school sectional head, and we had an upper school sectional head. Upper school sectional head. So I'm using this example. This example is coming from the school where I study, but I don't know if it's any different now. So under the preschool sectional head, there are few grade heads. So there is a nursery grade head, and there's a nursery grade head, HRI. And then under primary, there is grade 1 head, grade 2 head, grade 3 head, grade 4 head, and the grade 5 head. Middle school contains grade 6, grade 7, grade 8 head. Then upper school there is a O-level sectional head and there is a A-level sectional head. So for each of these, there is grade 10 and grade 11, grade 12, grade 13 sectional heads. And sorry, these are grade heads. So the amount of information that the principal gets is definitely different to the amount of information the sectional heads get. The amount of information that the vice principal gets is very different to compare to what the grade heads get. So when it comes to this level, the principal probably can access all information in your school. The vice principal filtered a little less, and it goes on. So you create user roles. Okay, user roles will allow individual viewing patterns for different roles. So if you are the principal, you get one kind of rights, access rights. Yeah, if you are the vice principal, you get different access rights, and so on and so forth. Another issue, a serious issue, is called plagiarism. So plagiarism is where you copy somebody else's work and you use it as your own. Now, if somebody copied this presentation and shared it as their own, or the tweet that I have given you and shared it as their own, that is plagiarism. To avoid plagiarism from taking place, you need to make sure that you speak to the rightful owner of the product, or if you are making an extract, you have to give references to it. If you If you use somebody else's work, you have to refer to it. If you got an idea out of a website, you have to give due credits for the website. If you got an idea out of a book, you have to give that due credits to the book. Then you have something called citations. So till recent, I didn't know that all of these were so important. And sorry, citations. I thought citations, references, they were all the same, but turns out they are not. Okay, citations is when you directly quote someone from a body of text. Let's say now in news you would hear so and so said, quote, unquote. That is what you mean by citation. So you put that within inverted commas and you write. Then there is something called that is citation, where you refer to someone. Quotation is where you put the quotes and write. Okay, references is when you say that you have used these works, you have referred through these documents to create this particular product. To create my slideshow, these are the references I have used. These are the books that I have gone through. These are the websites that I've gone through. That is what you call a reference. And there's something called bibliography also. Bibliography means what you referred through, but you didn't use it in your assignment, but you didn't use it in your slideshow. Let's say I was reading something online, but I thought it was not irrelevant. But I thought it was not relevant. It was irrelevant. So I don't want to add it to my document, but still later on, I have to sub the bibliography of it. Okay, what I saw. What if I copy paste from Wikipedia for an assignment? I delete that part on Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is a site where anybody can make changes to and references to. So Tariq, I'm assuming you are going to delete that part of. You're going to copy your own work, is it? You upload something on Wikipedia, you copy it into your assignment, and then you delete it from Wikipedia. Then unmute yourself and tell me, will you? Okay, something on Wikipedia. You copy and paste it to your assignment, all right. And delete that from Wiki. How would you delete what's on the internet? Unless you have a Wikipedia account or something. Yeah. It's editable. Stuff on Wikipedia are editable, but but you need to have an account and you need to have a certain credibility on you as well. So, but still, it's plagiarism. You copy something off Wikipedia and just paste it like that is plagiarism. You have to either paraphrase it, or you have to write it in. Paraphrasing means writing it in your own words. So you need to take these steps, these 5 steps to avoid the plagiarism that you might cause. So when you do your higher studies after O levels and after A levels, you have to do assignments, you have to do projects. So all your assignments and your projects go through a plagiarism checker to prevent your document from being a false one. So certain universities check the percentage. So if it is more than 13%, if it's more than 15%, they may not accept your work. So the percentage is that low. So you have to be very careful in future when you're going to do your higher studies. Yes, Google helps, but copy paste doesn't. Right. And then we are going to talk about physical issues. So if you have an issue where you live in a place where there are frequent power outages, regularly there is no power, while maybe for a day 2-3 times you will have power cuts, and power may come back, but you will still have power cuts. Or you might have I'm actually facing this. There is an iron welder's shop near my house. So what happens is there's huge power surges. So they use a lot of iron to they use a lot of electricity to cut and mold these iron. So when that happens, the electricity supply to the other nearby houses tend to come in surges. So to prevent this from happening, it's always good that you connect yourself to a UPS, which is called an uninterrupted power supply. So it has a backup power for you. It is able to hold on your computer for a little while until at least you save your work and safely turn off your computer. That is what a UPS would do. You can attach a UPS to any electronic device and proceed. Right. Then we have theft of devices. You have to be really careful these days. Well, this is not IT webinar, what I'm going to tell you. So much of threat, so much of scam that is going on these days. A lot. Seriously, a lot. Right? Recently I saw a WhatsApp, it was a forward that had come, and it was a CCTV footage. Okay, got goosebumps when I saw it. A man is walking stealthily, a young man. Okay, he's walking very stealthily behind an old lady, and she's carrying a bag of goods. So he puts on a huge fight with her to drag whatever's in her hand, and he runs away. So people are going through desperate times. So, and also your devices are super expensive now, because just after COVID, the import of goods, import of electronics came down to a great extent. Okay, and therefore the price of the existing products increased and the demand went up. So some people can't afford these devices. I've met countless students who have said, Miss, we want to study online, but we don't have devices. Imagine the plight of somebody who has 3 or 4 siblings in their house. They all have to share the same device. What if they don't have enough devices? Only Amma has a phone, Tata has a phone, and you have one computer at home, but you have 3 siblings. Okay, 3 kids in the family. What are you going to do? So, like I said, people are super desperate and they could steal your devices. So, to prevent this from happening, you need to keep them in a safe place. Okay, even inside your house, keep them somewhere safe, not somewhere near a window or a door where somebody could easily open it and run away with your device. Have locks and have locks on your windows and door. To prevent not only your devices but prevent any of this. Yes, all this is happening because of the pandemic situation. People are losing jobs, right? So lightning storms, again, another issue. Okay, these are natural causes, we can't help it, but what we can do is we can take little steps to prevent this from happening. Now you can get something called um, a surge protector, which will protect you from electricity. Actually, not you, your device, from electricity. Also, uh, what do we say? It prevent it from high surges of power. Yes, Tahira? Oh, I thought since I saw you unmuted, I thought you were going to say something. So you can use surge protectors to prevent your device from being harmed during lightning. And obviously, the most safest thing to do is take it off the plug. Don't just turn off the switch, take it off the plug and keep it either on a floor or a surface that is not an electrical conductor. Dust, moisture and dirt. So we live in a very tropical country. So we experience a lot of all this, right? So especially if you are living somewhere in a dry area, it's even worse. So what you do is, after the use of your computer, you can either cover it with something and prevent and don't and it's best to use a computer in an air conditioned environment. And if you don't have an air conditioned environment, that's fine. Doesn't mean to say that you have to use a computer only in AC. Make sure your air is the place that you're using it is a breezy place where it's not too hot, where it will collect moisture inside your device. Occasionally you get it checked by somebody every 4 months, every 5 months, get it cleaned inside. And if you are capable of doing that, go ahead, make sure you don't damage any parts, clean it. If it is a laptop, use it and have it covered. So then the dust doesn't get inside. And another important thing is, if you're using a laptop, opposed to the name laptop, don't keep it on your lap, because lint gets in through the little particles at the bottom, and that'll get clogged up, as you can see in the image that I've shown alongside. Use a board or use a book when you keep it on your lap. So health issues when it comes to ICT, and when it comes to using technology excessively. So last Friday, I visited the optometrist, and I was told that I have dry eye syndrome. The irony of it. So you uh, we all are looking at screens probably from morning till night. I've heard that some of you have classes at 4 o'clock in the morning and going on till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the evening. So these are very difficult. I know it's very difficult. So what you can do is you can regularly take breaks. Just sit somewhere, you preferably where you can see greenery, and look far and look close. Don't always keep looking into your screen. Use your pen and bring it close to your nose and follow the nib of the pen, close and far, left and right. Do these in repetitions of 10 frequently. Before going to sleep, keep a cotton pad on your eyes with chilled water to prevent your eyes, or to give a little break or something cooling for your eyes. Another thing that you can do is you can wear glasses uh, that have a screen filter on it. So even if you are looking at the phone, if you're looking at the TV or the computer, your eyes could be protected to a certain extent. And what you can do is, as you can see here, you can use an anti-blue light filter. Even you have this option. I mean, you can install a hardware. It's like a little filter that you clip on your screen. Or most of these devices come with a blue light filter or a warm light, which you can activate on your device so that you have less of the blue light, because it's this blue light that is harming your eyes. Okay. And repetitive strain injury, RSI. You're going to sit and wait in one position for a long time, and that is going to cause a lot of pain in your body. So make sure that if you're sitting, make sure you're sitting in the correct posture. Make sure you are stretching your legs every now and then. So now, if you can see this person, there's a lot of pressure on his elbow, because he has to keep his hand raised because the keyboard is not at the level of his hand. But here, it's so much more comfortable. And there is no pressure at your wrist. So when there is no pressure at your wrist, this will prevent another problem called carpal tunnel syndrome, where the nerves that meet at your wrist get pressured and the blood supply to your fingers would be less. So this is what we talk about, carpal tunnel syndrome. So then your blood gets accumulated here. Your nerve is compressed, so there is blood flow, but just not enough. So when this happens, your hand becomes very numb, and you don't feel your hand. Sometimes it's very painful, or it could get numb. So to prevent this from happening, you can flex your hands, right, in different movements, back and forth, left and right, to make your hands feel better. So what you want to write for this is actually entirely up to you. What should we write for robbery? What can you do to prevent the theft of your devices? Yes, anybody can tell me what can you do to prevent the theft of your devices? Do you think setting a password on your device is going to help?
Yes.
No, it's not. He's still going to carry your laptop and go away, and he can format it and start using it like his own. So you need to make sure your device is kept in a safe place. Use locks for doors and windows. Yes, Muhammad, you can use a CCTV camera in case. I hope that never happens, but in case somebody does run away with your device, you can track down the person from the view of the CCTV footage. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Then you have stress and headaches caused by stress. So when you are pressured by a lot of work to do, it eats out mentally and physically at you. Okay, so to relieve yourself from this stress, there are different things that you can do. A lot of people deal with stress in different ways. Either they play with pets, if they have, or they play with children if they have, because children alleviate all your pains away. You can meditate, you can engage in prayer, you can seek spiritual guidance, listen to some music, listen to some prayer, take a nap. Some people can't sleep when they're stressed out. Some people can sleep when they're stressed out. Some people stress eat. Some people stress eat. And then you can exercise. Really helps. Take a trip to the beach. Take a trip to the beach, and it really helps. Yes, doing yoga. It's all up to you. You need to figure out what works for you when you are under stress, and to go ahead with that. One thing you need to realize is whatever that happens comes from God at the end of the day. So this is for those of you who believe in God. For those of you who don't, you guys probably believe that whatever good comes from nature, and whatever bad also comes from nature by your activities. So whatever it is, it happens, and certain things we don't have control of. So that's one thing we need to understand. So that applies for your O levels as well. So that doesn't mean you get to chill, and then once your result comes, say, what to do, I did my best. Do your best in action and do it properly. Work hard these couple of days. If I'm not mistaken, you have probably less than 25 days to go for your exams. Today is the 6th, right? Yeah, today is the 6th, and your exams start on the 1st of March, on Monday, and this month has only 28 days. So less than a month, less than 25 days to go. So work hard during these days and enjoy the break that you can get after you get um, after you get after you're done with your exams, and also after you get your results, because that satisfaction cannot be met by anything. Don't have to regret, oh no, had I done a little bit better, I would have done much better. Had I put a little more effort in these areas, I could have done better. Identify your areas that you're weak right now, and strive. Okay. Moving on, we have environmental issues that come out as a result of improper disposal of garbage. So what you see here is a whole lot of e-waste, electronic waste. These don't get decompose, because they're plastic, metal, and some of them are even harmful for the environment. So what happens when these get ingested by the human body is that down the line you will see so much of more harmful effects from, okay, say now there's mercury in some of the products. So when this get into the water, water and the soil, they and the smoke of burning these things would give you headaches, would make you vomit, and when they get into your body for a long period of time, it could create loss of appetite, fatigue, muscular pain, sleeplessness, irritation, uh, which will end up at different abnormal growths in your body. So you need to be very safe, and you need to make sure, like I said, you got to take responsibility into your hands to make sure that the devices that you get and the devices that you're planning to dispose are disposed in the correct way. The best thing we can do is follow the 3R concept: reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce the amount of devices you have, if possible, and reduce the amount that you would throw away. Reuse them as much as possible. So your dad gets a new phone. What does he do to his old phone? Does he just leave it lying around the house? No, probably share it with somebody else, give it to somebody else. If that is not possible, sell it, resell it, because there's a market for that also. Okay, that is reusing. Recycling: if your computer has certain parts that are still working, if your desktop has maybe the power supply is working and then the hard disk isn't, you can replace the hard disk and use it, and probably give your hard disk to somebody uh, who can benefit out of it. Obviously, get the data erased. Maybe the person who is fixing your computer might be able to refix and install it to somebody else, something down that line. So this is out of the topic that we are talking about. We are talking about e-waste, and I need to tell you guys, I just got a message that said several websites under the .lk domain of Sri Lanka are hacked early this morning, were hacked early this morning. Steps are being taken to restore hacked domains. Professor Gihan Dias of the Registrar LK domain in Sri Lanka. So, like I said, cybercrime is on the rise. Why? Because people are afraid to go break into others' houses because of COVID. You never know what kind of situation those people would be in. And now, given the fact that y'all are working from home, given the fact that students are studying from home, learning from home, there are more people at home. So you can't really break into a person's house. So the best way to do it is through cybercrime. And then we have society issues. Now this is what we call the digital divide. So I am sure all of you can relate to this digital divide in some way. How many of your friends are not able to come online and study because of some issue? Either they don't have a device, either they don't have enough coverage in their area, or they don't even have money to purchase a smartphone. How many of you know people of like that? Hands up. Kawuruth ehema naha? Yes? Nobody? I've come across countless students who are unable to access these kind of, I wouldn't call it pleasures, because these are things that the kids would need in their education. Shukra Munawar, an example. Everybody knows who Shukra Munawar is? Anybody who doesn't know who Shukra Munawar is? Musa, I think you need to watch a little bit of TV. Okay, she's spoken of everywhere. She was a student who couldn't afford virtual schooling. Okay, and what happened was she decided to participate in the Sri Lankan version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and her target was to win 125,000, because she just wanted the money to buy a laptop, because she couldn't she's just after her O levels and she's studying her A levels, so she can't do virtual schooling without her device, so she gathers at her friend's place and studies and things like that. But that determination, that knowledge and skill she had, led her to win $2 billion rupees. I'm sorry, 2 million rupees. Okay, so she won 2 million rupees, and so many organizations came forward and they started giving her laptops. So she was saying the reason she came for the program was because she couldn't afford. It was because she couldn't afford to study, and she wanted to purchase a laptop. So she had so much more than the money she needed to purchase a laptop, and she got more laptops. And what she did was she gave it to more students like her, those who can't afford these laptops. So a commendable gesture by her. So that is again digital divide. This kid, maybe she even has the device, but you don't have the knowledge to use it. You don't have the main reason in a country like Sri Lanka is poverty. You don't have money to purchase it. Even if you do have it, you may not have signal. Now I know now my main. in her area, there's hardly any signal at all. If I need to contact her when she goes home, I need to give her a call and the phone will say Praticharayak Nometa. Later on, she will see my missed call alert and she would call me back. And for her to call me back, she has to climb a little higher. They live like in a mountainy area. They have to go higher to get cell reception. What about the kids studying in those areas? Okay, so these are issues that are caused by digital divide. What can we do to bridge this gap? First thing is you need to empower people. You need to empower people to build a stable financial background for themselves. Not just maybe give a few hundreds, few thousands. No, help them build their lives. Then they won't have to worry about purchasing an electronic device. They don't have to think like, oh dear, if I buy a phone today, will I have to eat for the next few days? No. After they probably get to that level, educate them, provide education as to how to use these devices correctly. Because contrary to the popular notion of people who have phones going the wrong path, people who are given computers or laptops are going in the wrong path. No, you educate them how to use it well. You educate them how to stay safe online and show what happens, repercussions of not doing that, and people would understand and definitely want to be safe. How many of you would like to be hacked? How many of you would like to have your data stolen and exposed out there? Anybody? No? Nobody wants. So then don't do it to anybody else also. Right? Simple theory. If you don't want it to happen to you, then don't do it to somebody else. Right? So you need to educate them. Provide them with the necessary infrastructure. Having a phone is not enough if you don't have the signal tower in the area. So organizations need to come forward to do that. But in Sri Lanka, it is actually happening. We can see, I think on Swarnavahini News a couple of weeks back, I saw that in certain areas that Swarnavahini is bringing to light, certain mobile service providers are putting up towers in which people could access the signal from. Organizations like No Limit, eSoft, they are providing schools with computers. They're providing schools with the teachers with necessary education to be able to pass them on to the students. And another issue that we have is de-skilling. Back then, a person's handwriting used to be a big deal. But now, do you think anybody worries about your handwriting except at your exams or when you go to work? No, because you type emails, you don't write letters. You type your documents, you don't write them and store in physical files. You create even when you do accounts, even though you're learning accounts today in writing, one fine day you're not going to put that writing. You're not going to do anything with writing these accounts. You're simply going to be using a software like there are different softwares to do accounting, QuickBooks, for example. So you're going to use softwares like these and do your accounts, not actually draw T accounts and cash books and do things like that. You can use Excel. Okay. So our skills are being taken away from us. Don't let technology control you, but you learn how you can control technology. Don't be a slave of technology, your laptop or your phone. It's easier said than done, right? We are all either constantly on our phones, we are on social media, we are watching things that we find entertaining, we are on our laptops, it's the same with me, right? I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. It's the same with everyone's lives have been changed, but we need to know where to draw the line and what we need to do to empower ourselves to keep ourselves skilled, right? When I was small, Beeralu was a thing. Have you all heard of Beeralu? Anyone? Making laces and tablecloths out of Beeralu. Anybody? Or sewing. Okay. How many of us are actually into sewing? And back then, sewing was a big deal. But now you have machines that are sewing. So the human labor that is needed to sew is not used. And as a result, we have unemployment. So the best is to prevent that happening to you in future. Keep yourselves skilled in multiple areas, not just one. If you're going to go forward in life, don't think about only becoming the greatest accountant in the world. No, have a backup plan also. The alphabet has 26 letters. You can create your own backup plan. Okay, so always have a backup plan. Keep yourself knowledgeable, up to date. Up to date is the most important thing here. Okay. Then we have another issue called scamming. What is a scam? Muhammad, can you tell me what's a scam? Yes, anybody can tell me what's a scam? What's a scam? You lie to somebody about something and get their details. Okay. So, and another word you can use for this is phishing. Phishing is using social engineering techniques to get information out of someone and probably be them. Okay. Nowadays, you get messages saying, congratulations, you have won £800,000, a gift from BMW. Click the link below to accept your prize. Would you do that? How many of you would do that? A show of hands, please. I mean, seriously, you don't win a prize from BMW every day. Worst decision ever, right? Because this is, and when you click on these and when you ask for exactly, you get scared. You wonder from where did they even get your number to begin with. Okay, so lots of scams are going on nowadays. I posted another video about paying at a restaurant, how to be safe when you even pay at a restaurant. So these are things that you need to consider before putting yourself out there. Another person I know, someone very close to me, they got cheated by the whole dialogue Lord of the Reload thing. No, dialogue Lord of the Reload is real. It's true, right? But somebody out there is taking advantage of it, calling up certain people and saying, congratulations, you've been selected as the next millionaire. And to award your prize, we need your bank details. And just to confirm your prize and just to confirm that you want your prize, can you please deposit 10,000 to 20,000 rupees in this particular bank account? They also give a bank account. And so they target people who actually need. So this person I know went into a lot of trouble, and she somehow collected 20,000 rupees and went and deposited in the said bank account. And after that, she never heard of the dialogue Lord of the Reload. She never heard of her 20,000 rupees. So be very careful out there. The world is not a very pleasant place. Of course, there are wonderful people out there, but we need to be able to pick and choose who we need to stay safe from and so on. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, and then we need to talk about the misuse of ICT. Okay. When it comes to social media, how many of you are not allowed on social media? Raise your hands. Anybody who is not allowed on social media? I saw a hand, but then that hand went missing. Keep your hands up. I just want to see. So why do you think you're not allowed on social media? Why do you think your mom or dad says no social media, at least until you are 18? Probably they have a fear of you misusing it. Probably because there are insane people out there who'd love to take advantage of innocent people like you. So your parents are always looking out to keep you safe. Okay. So even if you do use social media, let's say somewhere down the line, you will get into social media. No? You all are using Instagram, some of you are using Facebook, right? But the thing is, the way you use social media, you have to be mindful of it. Like I said, and in that video I posted yesterday, everybody please go take a look. Okay. Why would, don't be an oversharer. Um, Good hair day this morning. Snap a picture and post it, right? And then sometimes your livelihood is out there. Sometime back, I remember seeing an article that a mom had posted that she was going out for an ice cream with her little daughter, and she'd been like having having the daughter's name, having so and so's favorite ice cream at this particular place. Okay, couple of weeks later, there was somebody who gave the very same ice cream to the little daughter and kidnapped her. So these kind of things, I know sometimes you may post them without an intention to harm anyone, without anything, but there are such sickos out there who just get the kick out of nothing. Okay. So when you use social media, you got to be really careful. Social media, I'm not saying don't use it in the right way. Okay. Because nowadays, so much of entrepreneurship is happening on social media. You have so much of products being bought and sold online, not just through these Locucine websites like Daraz and Ikman, but just normal small business people who are trying to get on with their lives. Okay, there are people who write bloggers. Okay, so what happens is these bloggers, uh, they tend to create content. They talk about how their lives are influenced by certain things. They promote certain other people's products. They give first-hand experience about certain things. Now they are bloggers, and if you put a video of that, they are called vloggers. VLO. So it goes like this. Okay. Okay, you have bloggers and you have bloggers. Okay, bloggers, they write text based content. Okay, bloggers give you text based content, and vloggers give you video content. Like if you go out on YouTube and search for travel vloggers, you'll find a whole lot. They go to different places, they share their experience with you, but if you notice, they don't disclose anything personal about them. Most of them don't, but some of them they selectively disclose. That is to attract the number of subscribers or followers and so on. But again, like I said, you need to know where to draw the line. And there are forums. Okay, forums are websites where you can post a question and multiple people can answer. Now, simply said, an example, not an example, but it's operates in the same way your WhatsApp groups operate. You have a group and maybe someone puts a question. Do we have class today? Okay. And people will say, yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have class at this time and things like that. So it's a thread. It's that one particular conversation is known as a thread where one person will ask a question and those who are interested can give out answers. Uh, so if not for social media, sometimes it's difficult to connect with people. If you have relatives living abroad, friends living far away, you still need to connect with them at some point in your life. So use social media sparingly and very carefully. And then you have the issue of cybercrime. Like I mentioned earlier, there's not much of punishment that goes around for those who commit cybercrime, cyber fraud. Okay, one type of fraud that you could do is, okay, one thing that is happening very commonly is called cyberbullying. What is cyberbullying? What is cyberbullying? Can you all hear me? What do you mean by cyberbullying, Abdullah?
When you bully someone through internet.
You bully somebody online. You probably, you have a conversation with them. What you do is you take screenshots of it and post it online. See what this person told me. You have an embarrassing picture of your friend. On the day of their birthday, you upload it and say happy birthday. Name calling on social media, name calling online, all of these are different forms of cyberbullying. If you fall victim to a cyberbully, don't confront, just step back, report, flag, block, and avoid contact with that person. Also, speak to somebody who can help you. And I'm not saying, I mean, it's not saying, no, it's not telling tales about a person, but speak to somebody who can help you overcome this issue, somebody who you trust. Okay. Or let's say another thing that is a problem is discussing something that someone has told you in secret. Like I said, you have a conversation with them and you take screenshots of it and put it online. Okay. You have embarrassing, interesting tidbits about a person, you put it online just to attract attention. Okay, so all these are different forms of cybercrime. You hacking a person's account, you creating some kind of defamation to a person's character is also a cybercrime. So all these you need to stay out of. If you know somebody, please report them or get them some kind of help. So with that, let's take a 5-minute break. Now the time is 11:21. Okay, let's all reroute back. Don't leave the session. Okay, don't leave the session, just leave the session. Basic stuff we need to learn in terms of programming. First thing, you need to understand what is a flowchart and what is a pseudocode. I'm not going to go by the book, and those who studied with me would know that I approach this lesson very much differently. I don't I mean, the way I do it is different. So I hope that works out for all of you. So a flow chart, or simply said, now this lesson's name, we started off with programming, but we talk about something called algorithms. Algorithms, simply said, is a step-by-step approach in what you take to solve a problem. Okay. Now, if you don't have a water supply one day, okay, what would you do? Current what is the first thing we do? We check if the neighbor also has power or not. Okay. Then you check the trip switch. You give a call to the electricity department. So you go through a series of steps, and that's what you call an algorithm. Okay. So algorithms are of two types. One is called the flowchart, and the other is called pseudocode. A flowchart is used to represent your solution in a graphical format using symbols, whereas a pseudocode uses texts and keywords to represent your solution in a text format. Pseudocode is also known as zero code because it is not the same as a programming language, but it is closer. This is a tool in the design methodology of designing a system in the system development life cycle model. Okay, and then you design the system using these techniques, flowcharts, pseudocodes, and you hand it over to the software engineer who then codes the solution. So you have starting a flow chart, you always use a oval to start it and to finish it. The starting and end is symbolized by an oval, and if you are to put it into a pseudocode, you would use the words start, you would use the word begin in your pseudocode. Then let's say when you finish a flow chart, you can use the words end, you can use the words finish. So any system has to have an input and an output. The input and outputs are denoted by parallelograms, and in terms of writing those values, in terms of the pseudocode input, you can use the word input itself, you can use the word get, you can use the word read, any one of these, but the word input is most common. Output is also represented by the parallelogram, and you can use the word output itself, print, or display. Process. How do you indicate the process of something? It's indicated inside a rectangle. You give it in the form of an equation most of the time. So for that reason, we don't often write anything inside your process box, but sometimes if you want, you can use the word calculate. You can use the word process, but it's not used abundantly because when you write the equation, that speaks for itself. Now comes something interesting. When you make a decision in a flow chart, that is indicated by a diamond. It's called the decision box. Now, in terms of a diamond, you have one input flowing in, one or two outputs. So your one output, if you have only one output, we call it a simple selection. And that is represented in a pseudocode as if and then. If you are under 18, then you cannot vote. And another thing you need to remember when it comes to a flow chart is that when you draw the diagram, when you draw the diamond, and when you write your question inside, it always has to be a yes or no question. Okay, it always has to be a yes or no question. If it is only then you can take the part out, and you don't write in full forms of sentences, you write them in shorts. You use logical statements when you write a flowchart. Next, if you have the two options, then you write it as if, then, else. Okay, now for example, we say if what do we say, if is it raining? Yes, then you stay indoors. Is it raining? No, you go outdoors. So if you put that into a pseudocode, you could say, if it is raining, then stay indoors, else go outdoors. Else ideally means the otherwise part of it. Okay, when you want to say otherwise, you use the word else. What if you have multiple decision boxes in your flowchart? Right? You can't decide immediately something. You need to make a lot of questions to see if that works. That is called a nested if, and that is written as if, then, else if. Else and another if condition begins. Okay, that is how this works. So another thing you ought to remember is you have to always end this particular if conditions. Wherever you write, wherever you have a if condition, you have to make sure you end it. You write it as end if. Okay. Now, in a nested if situation, like I said, you have multiple ifs. That multiple ifs will be ended as end if and end if. If you have three if conditions, you need to end them in three. Now, one thing you need to remember is, you guys, you won't get to write serious flowcharts like pseudocodes or draw flowcharts like this. You will only be, we will be discussing the question so you can see it. You just need to fill in a few blanks, right? So then we talk about identifiers in Pascal. Okay. There are two types of identifiers on Pascal. The first one is called variables. The second one is known as a constant. So I hope this is a thorough revision for my students. We just finished it last week. Okay. Variables are used where you need a memory location that will constantly keep changing. Okay. So in one situation, x could be equals to 5. In another situation, x could be equals to 2. In yet another situation, x could be equal to 0.9. So whatever this is, it keeps changing. So when it is changing, we call it a variable. And when you are declaring a variable, okay, that comes next. So I'll go to that later. And then you have constants. Constants, they are fixed. They don't change. Okay. What are these things that don't change? The value of pi is always 22/7 or 3.14. It will never change no matter where you go. Vowels are always the same. A, E, I, O, U. No matter where you go, this is not going to change. The prime numbers are not going to change. Okay. Why? All prime numbers means numbers which have only two factors. So 7 is a prime number. 9 is a prime number. Nobody is going to turn around and, not 9, sorry. 7 is a prime number. 1 is a prime number. Nobody is going to turn around and say that 9 one day is a prime number. We are not going to say, somebody discovered it's not a prime number, because 9 has more than two factors. Usually factors are 1 and the number itself, and you can say 3 as well. So 7, you don't have any other factors. It's 1 and 7. 1 is, or actually speaking, not a prime number. And 3 is a prime number. 1 and 3. Then 4 is not a prime number because it's 1, 2, 4. 5 is a prime number because it's 1 and 5, the number itself. So these kind of things will not change. Then there is something called a reserved word in Pascal. Reserved words are words that are particularly mentioned and they have a fixed meaning to it. Okay, they have a fixed meaning to it. So when you see a reserved word, it could be it's on your textbooks. You can read and see. So these won't change. Words like and, the meaning of these, or, not, string, if, while, repeat, these kind of things are not going to change when it comes to your reserved words. The meanings of these will not change. You have different data types. Now, yesterday we learned, actually I didn't talk about data types in Access, but data types are applicable for Access also, because when a user inputs some kind of data, it has to be something that is of a similar data type. When you're asked for age, you can actually depict it in two ways. One you can do is, you can say you're 17, or you can say you're 17. But the administrators have the ability to restrict. Most sensible way to depict age is using your number. So that is what you mean by data type. Or date of birth. You can write it as 21st of June, some year. Or you can say 21st June and the year, written in words as well. Okay. So likewise, Pascal has data types as well. So few of the basic data types you need to know is integer. Integer means positive or negative whole numbers. Any whole number that is positive or negative. Then you have real. Real also means positive or negative decimal numbers. Sure, Musa. Then you have Boolean. Boolean means two opposing values. I'll give you all examples for this in a while. Char. A single character on your keyboard. Any single character on your keyboard. It could be a capital letter, it could be a simple letter, it could be a number, and it could be even a special character. All that falls under char. String means a collection of char. Okay, so let me give you some examples so that it will make more sense to you. Positive, negative whole numbers meaning like this, like 98, 73, minus 275, minus 85, things like that. Then you have real, positive, negative, decimal numbers. So you have 0.5, minus 8.3, 2.7, 5.9. So whatever these numbers, or 5.983, all these are known as real numbers. Okay. Boolean, any two opposing values like yes or no, true or false, 0 or 1, on or off. So any opposing values will be considered as Boolean. A single character on a keyboard. It could be, like I said, a capital letter. It could be a simple letter. It could be a number. It could be a special character. It doesn't matter. Okay. But the point here is it has to be just one character on your keyboard. String means a collection of characters. Let's say when you say the word name, you have four chars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Addition. Any word, any meaningful word is called a string. Okay. And I just realized I have not attached the part where we talk about loops in this tute. Okay. So I'm going to quickly share that on screen, and I will share this part with you on the group as well. So just a moment, please. Pascal has three main kinds of loops. Okay. Now a loop means a set of instructions that will be repeated often. Okay. Loop always involves a repetition. A certain instruction will keep repeating until it checks for a condition, and as long as that condition is satisfied, it will operate. So we have three different types of loops. And the first one is called a for-do loop. Okay. In a for-do loop, the statement is executed multiple number of times while the code is being abbreviated. Now see, for example, here we say, for I is equals to 1 to 10, do write ln I. Which means this Pascal code is telling us, as long as I is equal to 1 to 10, write I in a new line. And then there's another part that should be added on to this, which is the incrementation. Okay, I is equals to I plus 1. So if you execute this code, here's what's going to happen. First, you have to check. You have to see, right now, I is equals to 1. So, because the condition is true, you do write ln. Write ln I. So, I'm writing I. Okay. Then you increment I. I was 1. Now we have to do I equals I plus 1. I is equals to I plus 1. So, old I is 1 plus 1 according to the equation. I is 2. Now we check again. Is I equals to, is 2 equal 2 within 1 to 10? Yes. So you execute the statement again. Write ln I. Now can I write my second I next to the first? Can I do this? Lamai, can I do this? Yeah? Those of you who say yes, put your hands up. Nobody's responding. Why is that? What do you think is correct? Akhil, can you tell me? Can I write it next to each other? Akhil? You can't write it next to each other. Why? Because it says write ln. Ln means you need to write it in a new line. So each time you write a new I, you need to go to a new line. So it's got to be like this. So let's say I is equals to 10. Is 10 equals to 10? Yes. You still go ahead and write it. You write I again. And then you increment it. 10 plus 1 becomes 11. Then you check, is 1 is 11 between 1 to 10? No, it is not. Then you end your flowchart. So when you write your code, you have to start it with the word for. You have to start it with the word for. And then you write the name of the variable. Okay. You write the name of the variable. Then you write the starting value, you write the ending value, and between this you say to or even down to. If you're going in reverse, you can use the word down to, and then you give the execute. You say do, and then you give the statements that you want executed. Okay, but the thing is, this loop, because this loop you can only use if you know how many times the loop is going to operate. If not, you can't use it. Okay, if you know how many times the loop is going to work, then it's going to be fine. Next one, while do, repeat until. Again, for my students, this might be a little bit of a old example. Sir කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවලු ඉස්කෝලේක කිසිම ප්‍රශ්න, if he sees kids fighting or if he sees anybody breaking rules, කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහන්න නැහැලු. කෙලින්ම ළඟට අඬ ගහලා කනේ පාරක්ලු දෙන්නේ. Okay, he doesn't inquire what happened, why are you hitting this guy, why is that guy hitting you, why did you come to school in slippers today? Nothing. You directly get hammered, and then probably he'll ask, මොකටද ඉස්කෝලේට සපත්තු අඳන් ආවේ නැත්තේ? ඇත්තටම බලද්දි මේ ළමයා සමහර වෙලාවට සපත්තුව කැඩිලා ඇති. Nattang, he has a wound in his leg which he can't wear the shoes. So in that case, what happens? There's no point in that child getting hurt, okay, or wet for the rain, okay. And obviously nobody owns multiple pair of school shoes. No, we just have one, and we manage with that one. Or the shoe broke, the sole came off, no way to repair it for the next day, okay. So anyway, that is one scenario. Or you will have another nice sir. He'll see you in shoes and he'll ask, මොකද පුතේ අද සපත්තු ඇඳන් ආවේ නැද්ද? නෑ sir, මේ අද සපත්තු දෙක තෙමුණා ඊයේ. තාම තෙමිලා. එහෙමද? හරි. එහෙනම් අදට විතරක් සෙරප්පු ඇඳන් ආවා හරි. හෙට ඉඳන් සෙරප්පු නම් අඳින්නේ නෑ. අන්න ලස්සනට warning එක දීලා යවුවා. හැබැයි අනිත් එක්කෙනා ගහලා තලලා ඔක්කොම කරලා ඉවරුණායින් පස්සේ තමයි අහන්නේ මොනවාද උනේ කියලා. හරිද? Now I explained while do loop and repeat until loop. Who can tell me which sir is which? Okay. Who is the Napuru sir? Okay, where is my... Who is the Napuru sir? Mage Sinhala Atakuru is bad. And who is the Honda sir? Kauda Honda, Kauda Napuru. Which loop is Honda? Which loop is Napuru? Yes, tell me. Repeat is?
Good, sir.
How can you say that? Repeat is the Napuru sir, whereas while is the Honda sir. Let's see why that is. Okay. Now see, in the repeat, in the while do loop, you first test the condition and after that you execute the statements. Whereas in the repeat until loop, you execute your statements, only after that you test the condition. See, it's in the reverse order. So Honda sir කියලා අපි කිව්වා අපිත් එක්ක පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරලා අහලා බලනවා. ඇයි ඔයා අද සපත්තු ඇඳන් ආවේ නැත්තේ? ඇයි අද සෙරප්පු ඇඳන් ආවේ? That is our Honda sir. But that sir who suddenly comes out of nowhere and gives you hell for not wearing slippers, that is the Napuru sir, which is the repeat until loop. So if you can, I'm repeating again, in the while do loop, the condition is tested first and then the statement is executed. Whereas in the repeat until loop, the statements are executed and the condition is then tested. In the repeat until loop, there might be chances where it might even not operate even once. Why could that be? Why could it not even operate once? Why do you think the while do loop might not even operate? Yes? Yes, Muhammad, very good. If the condition is false, then the loop will directly end. But in the repeat until loop, even if the condition is false, the loop might at least execute one time. Why? Because you execute the statement and then only you proceed to check the condition. Okay? So you need to remember these basics to make sure that at your exam, you get your MCQs right. I will send this to you all later, don't worry. So then we talk about declaring a variable. Now, if you are going to write a program and you are writing a program to add the total of two numbers. You will not be asked to write programs, don't worry. Okay, so but still, if you want to write, we can say var variable name. Let's say first variable is called mark1. Then I'm going to say mark2, and we give the data type. What is the data type? Integers. Hold on, you don't have to put those brackets. You can say var mark1 mark2 total is not equals, is this, and we say integer. Then when you assign values, what is mark1, what is mark2? So you say mark1 is equal to 75. You can say mark2 is equals to 38. You need to remember to always put a semicolon at the end of the statement. When you're assigning a constant, okay, let's say you're going to check the value of pi, okay, then what you do is you say const pi is equals to 22/7, or you can say const pi is equals to 3.14 and semicolon. Okay, මේවා අහන්න ඇත්තටම, so you don't have to worry. Then we need to talk about an array. Array is also another data type, a little bit more different in comparison to the normal data types you have learned. And an array is ideally visualized like this. It's a memory location in which you can store multiple amounts of data, but the catch here is all of these data have to belong to one data type. Okay, now let's say this is an array of colors, very basic, but array of colors. Okay, so an array is addressed with indexes. Okay, now it's one full memory location with multiple parts inside. No, so we need to know which part we are talking about. So we start addressing it at 0 inside box brackets like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So this is the highest address index, and this is the lowest one. Now, if we are declaring an array for a color, we can say var color array. Now you have to give the size of the array. So array 0, 2 dots all the way up to 7, which means you can allocate 8 colors inside of this of data type, I'm going to say string. So now when you assign values into these colors, assign values into this array, you say num index and the value. So our first one, num 0 is red. එතකොට ඔයාගේ output එකේ මෙතන red කියලා එනවා. When you say num 5 is yellow, we go to where yellow is. Okay, semicolon. We go to number 5 and we say yellow. Num 2 is blue. මෙතනට num 2 තියෙන තැනට blue වෙනවා. That's how it works. So you will get questions like this, and we will discuss one soon. Then we talk about different programming languages. So the programming languages can be classified as 2 main types. One is known as the first classification is known as low-level programming languages. The other one is high-level programming languages. Just a minute. So I've given you space to write down whatever you may feel that is important. They have not gone into detail about this area, so I'm just going to skim through it only. Right. So when it comes to programming languages, the first generation of programming languages is known as machine language. Okay. So machine language directly was, now we know the story where humans are unable to understand what the computer says to us. Okay. We can't understand. So for that reason, we have to go to the computer's level and code it in a way that the computer understands. So that is what was done in the first generation, or the machine language generation. So this was used to program computers in the first generation, and the instructions were given to the computer in binary language. Therefore, there was no compilation or translation required. Yes, sorry about that. So because the programmer directly typed in binary, there was no translation that was needed, but programs written in this generation were really fast and very efficient, because once again, translation was not required. It was the least user-friendly generation, because we humans had to completely learn the binary language, and every single instruction was given in binary. So that wasn't favorable, and it was not user friendly. And another reason why we say it is not user friendly is because it didn't have error handling mechanisms. Okay, what do you mean by error handling mechanisms? It means that the users were not able to figure out, in case there was an error, users were not able to figure out where the error is. The program didn't put it forward. You had to go and find where did you go wrong. So that is another time consuming process as well. Another issue here was that it was platform dependent. That means when the code is written in one computer, it only works on that computer. Now, let's say, for example, certain softwares work only with Apple or Mac iOS. It doesn't work with Windows. So that is another level of platform dependability. It works only on that operating system. It runs only on that operating system. So this problem was there in the low level, or the first level of computer languages. Then came the assembly language in the second generation. It was known as assembly language because now, keeping in mind all the issues of the first generation, what programmers did was they introduced a small level, a minute level of English into this second level programming language. Obviously, because English was introduced, a translation process had to take place, and this used a translator called assembler. That is why you got the name assembly language. So it had to convert whatever that was coded into assembly language, and it also allowed the debugging of the program at a much easier level. In the machine language, no debugging. I mean, there was no mechanism to find your errors. You had to do it yourself, but in the assembly language, you were able to do it. They were machine dependent, and it was tough to convert and run on other computers as well. So the same problem as the first generation existed in the second generation. but they were slightly more efficient, used little less storage, and executed faster than all of these high-level languages. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it executed faster than the high-level languages? Anybody can tell me? Why did the second generation execute faster? The reason is because, I feel like Dora now. The reason is because more English was introduced in the third, fourth, and fifth generations. So more translations needed to take place. So third generation is known as procedural languages, just like Pascal. Okay. So what happened in, procedural languages is you need to give every single instruction step by step. This is a group of programming languages that introduced a very significant amount of English, or very significant amount of uh, understandability in comparison to the second language, right? Most third generation languages are procedural, and they only tell the computer what to do and how to do. Okay, or else you would only expect the end result. In a procedural language, you say what to do, how to do, and you needed either a compiler, or an interpreter to convert these you needed a compiler or an interpreter to convert the source code into machine code. Okay, examples for third generation programming languages include Fortran, Basic, Pascal, like what we are learning, C, C++. So C, this is known as C#. Okay, the last example. Then we move on to the fourth generation of computer languages, which is known as object-oriented languages. So in these languages, your programming evolved around a single object, an entity, like I said yesterday. Okay, it was much more closer to our human language, and the whole purpose of designing it was to reduce the effort, the time, the cost that is taken to develop a software. Because obviously the cost is going to keep increasing because you had a lot of learning to do. So if you are going to learn, the labor cost is high, so the cost involved in developing your software is also going to increase. And they are mostly used for scripting, when you are building a website. And examples for this are languages like Perl, Ruby, Python, and something called SQL. SQL is used for databases. Okay. So we moved on to the fifth generation of computing as well, programming language, which was known as logic languages, where in contrast to procedural languages where you tell the computer how and what to do things, you just tell the computer what you want as an output, and it can use any of the possible ways and then arrive at the conclusion. It was able to take a logical decision and arrive. So in other words, we know this involved a little bit of artificial intelligence as well. Examples: Prolog. Okay, something called Haskell. So Prolog means programming logic. That is why Prolog. Okay. So now we talk about these interpreters and compiler. So the interpreter and compiler, they both serve one purpose. That was to make sure that the source code was properly converted to machine code. So when it converts to machine code, the approach taken for each of these are different. In a compiler, one entire program is compiled at a time. Okay, see, one entire program is compiled. Whereas in an interpreter, one statement at a time. So which one do you think is faster? Which one do you think is faster? Neither? What do you think was faster? Yeah. Anybody can tell me which one was faster? Now imagine a story like this. Okay. Um, you have a person speaking Spanish, and you have a person speaking English only. And you have the translator in the middle. So in a compiler, what happens was, he will tell the entire sentence at once. He will convert and tell the entire thing in English back here, right? But what happens in terms of an interpreter is that, now see the Spanish guy would say one sentence. Okay, so this one sentence, the translator will convert and give it in English. After that, he will say the second statement. Then the translator will convert the second statement. So in a compiler, the time taken to compile is relatively less because everything goes at once. If not, he has to keep repeating individual sentences. Okay, less time is taken to compile. Then, but an interpreter, the overall execution time is slower because why? You are going one statement at a time, but here it goes all at once, so it's faster. An executable code of a machine code is produced. You will finally get an exe file you all would have seen. Okay, exe file එකක් එනවා. That is because you have compiled it. No executable file is produced. Okay, now this executable file is known as the intermediary code. So here, no such intermediate code is there. Because of that, for that reason, the amount of memory taken by the compiler is more than that of the interpreter. So you have to save this executable file also, so more memory is taken. But since there is no executable file in the interpreter, less memory is taken. Compilations are done before executions. So before you finish all compilations, when you translate it, everything is translated and only then it's executed. Whereas statement by statement, each time he translates, he's delivering it to the user. Here, he finishes translating the entire thing and only then gives it to the user. And in case there is an error, it is produced at the end of the program. Whereas in an interpreter, the minute you find the error, your compilation is stopped. So that actually shows it's less of a waste of a time, because then you can see your error, fix it, and then move on with your system. So this has been a question that they've asked in the past, so which is why I wanted to explain. Programming languages like C, C++, C#, basically the procedural programming languages, they use compilers. interpreters are used by Perl, Python, Java, and PHP. Okay. This is the 2019 question paper. Have you all done this? I know it's not in the tute, but have you all done it before? Yes? Anybody who has done this? Okay, once. Shall I give you all about 5 minutes to attempt this question? It's okay if it is wrong, just attempt it, okay? And write down the answers. You can see the question is shared on the screen. So attempt it and we'll discuss it. Script is done. So they've asked you to redraw the array after, they've asked you to redraw the array because they've asked you for the output of the code. So you can see that there is a while loop, and within the while loop, you can see there is a if condition as well. Okay. So we have the values as A1, sorry, A0, A1, A2, A3, A4. So the first value will remain as it is, which is 80. The next value will become 45 and then 88. 88, oops, sorry. Next value would be 65 and 72. Okay, so if you write either 4 or 5 numbers correct, you will get a full 2 marks. If you write 1 to 3 values correct, you will get 1 mark. Okay. In the next one, you need to identify flowchart. You need to identify what these values need to be for P, Q, and R. So what has happened here is they've converted this. They've converted this pseudocode into a flowchart, and you have been asked what exactly will go into these. So hold on. So begin the value of A is equals to 0, K is equals to 1. That's this part, the initialization. And then the while loop, while K is less than or equals to 4, what do we do? You check is, so P is A, K less than the value. See, here it's a if condition. So that is what comes over here in place of P. Then if the the value of A within K is less than the value, then you make it equal and you have a process to run. And what is that? K is equals to K plus 1. So Q is equals to K is equals to K plus 1. This is the increment part. And finally, you have to display something, output dekak. You know it from the shape. So what do you display? You display the value. So R is the word value. Okay. So if you get 1 mark each for P 1 mark, Q 1 mark, R 1 mark. This is easy. Then they've asked you to redraw the array and its contents after the following assignments are carried out on the array. So they have changed the values. A has become, oops, I kind of made a mistake. And that was the flowchart I drew here needs to be equal here. So let me do this one first. So first I have my array. And now I'm going to input both the old values and the new values so that you can see the change that has happened. And that would be the older values are what I'm going to put in green. So that's 80, 100, 70, 80, 100, 70, 65, and 95. Right. So now they are saying they are changing the value. So this is the zeroth index, first index, second index, third index, and the fourth one. So first one they are changing to 45. Second one they are changing to 88, and the third one becomes 72. All other fourth one becomes 72. All other values shall remain the same. So 80, 80. So y'all don't have to draw what I drew here in the middle. Okay. I just drew it for the purpose to show y'all to see how the values are changing. But this is going to be your final answer. And for drawing this array correctly, you will get 2 marks. Don't unmute yourselves because we have a lot to do now. We have to proceed. And as for this question, please don't unmute yourselves. Keep yourselves muted unless you have a question. If you have a question, you can feel free to ask. Okay. That's okay, but it's okay. Right. So we are now, wait, we have one more question. Yes. This is an interesting question. Usually you get you get questions like this. So this is a question where they have given you lengths of 3 triangles and you have to determine which triangle is which. So you have 3 types of triangle: equilateral triangle where all 3 sides are the same, isosceles triangle where 2 sides of the triangle are of the same length, scalene triangle where none of the triangles are equal in length. So you need to figure out again the labels for P, Q, and R. Can you figure out what these values are and quickly put in your chat box P, Q, and R? Good. Lovely to see some answers in the chat box. So let's go through this. So you have three lengths. So you have three lengths, L1, L2, and L3. So first they check, is L1 equals to L3? And if so, you're going to check something else. And if that condition is also satisfied, we call it an equilateral triangle. So in an equilateral triangle, you need to see if all three sides are equal. So in L1, what you do is, in the first situation, you check if L1 is equals to L2. Yes, now two sides are equal. To check the third side, you need to see if L2 is, is L2 equals to L3? If it is a yes, you display it as an equilateral triangle. If no, that means two sides are equal and one side is not. So what kind of triangle is that? What kind of triangle is that? Two sides equal and one side is unequal? Yes, it's an isosceles triangle. So then we write the term display isosceles triangle. You have to write the word triangle itself. And then finally, L1 is equals to L3. No, that means two sides are not equal. Is L2 equal to L3? Again, no. Still two sides are not the same. Is L1 equals to L3? Now we are checking the third side. That is also not equal. When none of the three sides are equal, we call it a scalene triangle. So now as R we write display scalene triangle. And you stop. So you get 1 mark each here. In total, you will get 10 marks. Now we talk about the traditional a system development life cycle. So before we talk about a system development life cycle, you need to understand that a system will create a particular output for a problem. So to do that, you need to first identify the requirements. Now, somebody has a problem. To give a solution, you need to find out what is the problem. So if somebody wants, let's say, a library management system, okay, somebody wants a library management system, you ask the person, what do you want? How do you want it done? So you find out what the requirements are. Requirements can be classified into two, as functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Functional requirements means what the system must do, like the library management system should be able to register new members, keep a record of the books, keep a record of who is borrowing, any reservations, who is doing reference on certain books, how many copies of the books are there. Those are functional. Non-functional requirements means how fast is your system working, how are the color theme working. Those kind of things are non-functional requirements. How much of space does it occupy? So you need to understand all of these requirements and then you design the system. This is what your textbook is saying. Your textbook does not talk about a feasibility study part. Feasibility, how many of you have learned what is feasibility study in your schools or with your tuition teachers? Hands up. Only Sajid has learned what is feasibility study. A pity. Ajmal also has learned. Okay. So what happens in feasibility study is you analyze and check whether or not this system, is doable or not. Okay. So if it is doable, then you proceed. But to analyze feasibility, you check a few conditions. And those conditions are known as telos. Okay. Technological, I don't like to write it that way. Okay. So we have technological, economical, legal, operational, and schedule feasibility. That is, you see, what kind of technology are we going to use to produce this library management system? What kind of hardware are we going to incorporate? What is the programming language we want to use? Will they be able to adjust with? That is technological. Economical means how much it will cost us. Do we have to acquire additional staff? Do we have to acquire special softwares to do this? Licensing actually comes in legal feasibility. Economically, whether you're going to purchase more stuff, is it going to give you a return on investment? How much is the profit you're going to generate from this? All this goes under all this goes under economical feasibility. Legal feasibility is the legal aspect of things. For your software, are you going to get a copyright license? Are you going to, even though you created it for someone, are you going to resell it? Right. So just a minute, guys. Are you going to, when you're going to sell it, are you going to sell it with a license? Are you going to resell that product even though you made it for somebody else? So these kind of things will involve the legal aspect of it. Operational. Will the people who are working at the library be able to use the product? Should we teach them specifically how to use it? Those goes under operational. Do we have to train them? If we are going to train them, how are we going to do the training? Those kind of things. Schedule feasibility. How soon should we give it to our clients? How soon do they want it? That is known as feasibility. So you carry out this entire process, and if you feel like you're up for it, then you go ahead and carry on with your next stage. Now the thing about this is, usually a feasibility study is done in the very beginning, because the feasibility study the requirement gathering part easily takes a very long time. And just after gathering the requirements, if you decide not to do the project, it's actually a big waste of time. So usually the feasibility study comes first, and then comes the requirement gathering. It depends on how people want to do it, right? So then the system is designed based on the requirements gathered. So these two phases, or the requirement gathering phase and the feasibility study phase, is done by somebody called a business analyst, right? It's called a BA. He produces something that you call a SRS, system requirements. It's called a system requirements specification document, and he hands this document. The BA hands the system requirements specification document to the system designer. Then the system designer will make use of different tools. Who can tell me a few tools that is used to design the system? Yes, few tools we design the system with. Nobody? So we use flowcharts, we use pseudocodes, we use different diagrams called the data flow diagram, the activity diagram, the communication diagram, decision trees, decision tables. So all these kind of techniques are used to design your system, and finally that is given to the software engineer. So now what your software engineer is going to do is, based on the design, he is going to choose a suitable programming language. Although I'm using the word he, doesn't mean that it's a one-man show. Okay, multiple people are involved in this. So they choose a suitable programming language, acquire any hardware that is required, and then complete the coding of the system. After the system is coded, you put it through a series of tests. Now you all need to know what is unit testing, integration testing, integration testing, system testing, and the user acceptance testing. So what happens in the unit testing is you test each individual modules alone to see if it is working independently. Then what you do is you put these modules together and test if they are working together. Now, for example, we have this system A, B, C. You put all of them together and see if it is working. That is called integration testing. So you have few other individual modules called D, E, and F. You put this together also and see if that is working. So if the unit test is fine, the integration test is also fine, you move, I hope everybody had taken down what they wanted to take down. We do something called the system testing. Now, obviously, one system will have many subsystems inside it. Okay, so you will integrate these subsystems together and test it to see if the system is working as a whole properly. And then finally, you give it to the user, and it's called the user acceptance testing. And they will test the system to see if their requirements are met, and they'll approve of the system. After which the system is implemented or deployed. So implementation or deployment simply means that you're going to put your system in the actual working environment. Can be done in 4 ways. First one is known as direct implementation. The second one is known as parallel implementation, phased, and pilot. What happens in direct implementation is you stop the use of the old system and you start the use of a new system, which is a very risky move. All right. Parallel implementation means you will run the old system and the new system parallelly for a certain period of time to make sure that your new system doesn't have any errors. So only thing is you will have to put twice the effort because you're going to manage 2 systems, but it's still all right because even if there is a crash on your new system, you still have a backup as your old system. But that is not there in the direct implementation mechanism. For phased implementation, what happens is you implement part by part of it. You probably first implement A here. You implement B. you implement C. So that way is a a much better way, because your let's say your customers are happy, okay, because they can see at least something being deployed part by part. Finally, you have pilot implementation. Let's say if you are a large organization or if you are a school, okay, they'll first implement one part in the they'll implement it in the preschool section. So if your software is working in the preschool section, then you go ahead and install it in the primary section. It's working successfully in the primary section, then let's go ahead and install it in the middle school section. Likewise, section by section, part by part, you implement your system. That's what happens in pilot project. Now, pilot implementation. Now, let's say if you are a bank or a large organization with multiple branches, they'll probably pick a branch which has where the number of customers are less, or they can handle the pressure even if something does go wrong, and they'll implement it there. If it is working in that branch, then they'll move on from one branch to another. This is what we call pilot implementation. So then comes, when the software is being put to use, comes the problem of wear and tear. Wear and tear means as you use it, your software keeps going. You will find more errors. You might find a few bugs in the process of working it. You might realize that your BA didn't understand your requirement properly. So what happens is we have a maintenance phase. This is the longest and the most, let's say, never-ending phase of a system development life cycle, because our requirements constantly keep changing. All the time we need new things. So what happens is in the maintenance phase, we write up a maintenance agreement document, and what kind of maintenance will be done, what would be charged for, all this will be documented in the maintenance process. Okay. Now, this is how the traditional waterfall model goes. Now, in case in the user acceptance phase, you realize that your business analyst hasn't understood your requirement properly, you can't go back here and tell him your requirement again and fix it. That is not possible in the waterfall model. Because now, obviously, that's why the name is given as waterfall model. Why? Because, when a waterfall flows, it doesn't change its mind and goes back up halfway through. It has to finish the entire journey, go right back down, wait till it gets evaporated again into the air, and then it gets and then it comes back to the top of the waterfall, if at all it's necessary. So just like that, you can't change your mind halfway through and then let's say make the relevant changes. For this reason, we stepped out of the waterfall model and we moved on to a new model called the iterative incremental model. So in this model, the systems were developed in little iterations. So you understand the user requirement. Let's say you have A, you have B, you have C, you have D, and you have E. What happens is, with these requirements, you first develop A and hand it over to your customer. Then in the next iteration, you increment A and you add a new module to it called B and give it to your customer. You have, in the next phase, you add A and you add features to B and you create the new requirement C and give your customer. So do you see the difference here? The customer is able to visualize his product. Nobody likes to wait for a long period of time after paying money to see what is happening, right? Now, even in your case, right now, we said the webinar is happening. Would you like it if we said, if you, after you guys paid the money, if I said it's taking time and things like that, would you be happy with it? No. So therefore, we need to find a proper mechanism where we can deliver the content to you faster and in a way that it will make you all happier. Okay. So the iterative incremental model is able to do that. Now, halfway through you go, you realize you don't want A++. Then what you do is in the next stage, you can just make it A, make the B++, make the C++, and hand it over to the customer. So in terms of the waterfall model, it didn't allow change requests. No change requests were allowed. Whereas in the iterative incremental model, change requests were allowed. There was no user involvement. Okay. But in terms of iterative incremental development, the user is highly involved. Please don't write it the way I am writing, because it does not make much sense that it should, but please write it in complete sentences. Now here I've said no user involvement. Here I have said highly involved. You need to say user was highly involved. Okay. In a waterfall model, no product visibility. You can't see the product until the very end of your system. But in iterative incremental model, you have product visibility. Why? Because after you finish each iteration, you are giving that to your user. So he is going to be very happy to see his money at work. Okay. What are the other differences you all can tell me? Another thing is more time is taken in a waterfall model because you have to finish each phase 100% before you move on to the next phase. Whereas in the iterative development model, it's not like that. You go as you finish as you go. Okay. You take one iteration, complete it, give it to your customer, and so on. Any other differences you all feel that I have missed out? Would you all like to share? It depends. It's like this. You can't say that they use the waterfall model still, they don't use it depends on which organization, it depends on what they are actually building to decide what is the most suitable approach for this. Okay. So what approach to use also depends on what kind of system you're developing. In addition to waterfall, in addition to the iterative incremental model, there is something that we call the spiral model. So the spiral model is very similar to your iterative increment, is very similar to your waterfall model, but it has a lot of emphasis on risk assessment. See, it identifies requirements and it also identifies alternative solution. Then you identify the risks and you see what you can do if these risks do come into play. There's a special document for this called the risk contingency plan. What would you do if those risks actually do happen? Okay. Then after that, you review plan for the next phase. You produce whatever you need to produce, and then you plan for your next phase. This is not this is not questioned as much, or it's not required, but I'm just telling you that there are stages like this as well. Then you have a prototype model. So this is used when the user is not sure of his requirements. He doesn't know what he wants. Okay. How many of you here have watched the age-old TV series Friends? Friends, hands up. Nice to see hands coming up. It's actually probably more than 25 years old. I'm not sure if you will remember, but there is an episode where Phoebe says that her grandma makes the best cookies, and she gives a cookie to Monica and asks Monica to make these cookies. But obviously, the problem is she doesn't have the exact recipe. So she tries different variations. She adds and reduces certain products, and she goes through a lot of trouble to get this cookie right. That is what you may call prototyping. So she gives these cookies. So she gives these cookies back to Phoebe, and she asks Phoebe to try it and see if it tastes like her grandma's. And then Phoebe, she tries it and she says no. She tries it and she says, oh no, the previous one was better and this one is worse. That kind of thing. So that is called prototyping. So you build a prototype based on what the user says he wants. After that, you show it to the user. He evaluates it, and based on his evaluation, you refine it. You build it again. If he says, no, I don't want this module, can you change it? Then you change it. Then you again change it, show it, change it, show it, change it. When finally the user is happy, you implement it and maintain it. And so let's quickly look at the 2019 paper here. This is from the part 2. This is the part 2 paper. Okay. And yeah. Following table shows 5 stages of the system development life cycle, and you need to match these to the relevant statements given here. So you to match the right stage with the activity given. So the first stage is identification of requirements, and what is the activity you do. Do you code the solution? Do you design the solution? Integrate the solution, integration and testing? Or do you interview the person? So interviewing is done in the identification of the requirement stage. Sorry. Designing interfaces. So when you design an interface, it is done in the designing the solution part. So B is Q, A is S. Writing the computer programs, that is done in the coding phase, that is P. And testing and debugging, one of the activities involved in testing and debugging is the integration of the system, integration testing. And finally, adding new features you get in maintenance of the system. So your marks will be awarded as follows. If you got 4 or 5 correct, you will get 2 marks. If you get 1, 2, or 3 correct, you will get only 1 mark. Okay. Next, the bookshop in your school operates on a computer-based information system. When a student goes to buy stationery, the clerk enters the item code and the quantity of each item. So you have to identify the input, process, and output. So you need to write any one of these as the input, process, or the output. So ideally, input would be the item code and the quantity. And then the process would be to calculate the total cost for each item and total cost and the bill value, total bill value. Finally, you display the bill and you print the bill. So if you write any one of these for input, you need to write only one. You will get 1 mark. No, actually you get 1 mark for writing a correct input, you get 2 marks for writing the correct process, and you get 1 mark for writing the correct output. Okay, super. Next question, you need to identify the correct labels. Sunil is developing um, Sunil is developing a library management system and told the teacher that she will not be able to use any part of the system until the entire system is developed. So you can't use the old system. You can't use the old system till the new one is developed. So that is going to be the waterfall model, because you're going to take that old system and work with it. Then you have, after completion of a small information system for the school canteen, Asma decided to stop the existing system and operate the new one. So this is parallel deployment. Let's see if we have something. No. Decided to stop the existing system and operate the new one. That would be P. That's direct deployment. After monitoring the new student information system initially introduced to grade 6, the principal plans to introduce the system to other classes of the school. So this is pilot. They have implemented it in one section. It is working successfully. So he's going to implement it to the next section. The initial system was developed with 2 screens and 1 report. Based on the user feedback, 2 more input screens and the report were added to the system. More features are to be added based on user feedback. So this is very obvious. It is called a phase development. Phased is R. Okay. So, sorry. Should it be iterative? No. Phased deployment. You're deploying it part by part. Okay. So you will be getting half a mark each. You will get 2 marks if you write 3 or 4 correct, and you will get 1 mark if you write 1 or 2 correctly. 2 benefits of a computer-based information system over a manual information system. There's plenty that you could write. One is just a minute. Move on. Benefits of a computer-based information system. There's so much of benefits that you can write. Any one of the 2 benefits, you will get yourself 2 marks. You can talk about how fast it is, how reliable computer-based information systems are. Also, in a computer-based information system, you can have multiple users working simultaneously, whereas in a manual information system, because it's on pen and paper, 1 person can work on it at a time. A computer-based information system is far more secure than a manual information system. Taking backups are much more easier, because if you are going to take a manual information system, you have to take photocopies. But now if you are going to do a computer-based information system, you can just get it to say you give the backup option and the backup would be there. And also it's very easy to edit, make changes, because you have far more efficiency in a computer-based information system, in contrast to a manual information system. So any one of these you would get 2 marks, right? This is one long lesson. Who wants a 5-minute break? So a URL is where a particular web document is located on the web, right? So Ala, no, the break is not until 1:30. I said 1:15, then people requested to make it 1:20. So then I made it 1:20 and now we have started. Okay. Okay, so I have a crying toddler right next to me. That's a big problem now. Right. So we have to see the parts of a URL. So twice I think you have been asked to name these. So first we have a protocol. So first thing is a URL is the location of a document. Uniform resource locator. Okay. In a uniform resource locator, you can see where exactly a particular document is saved. In other words, a URL is the web address of a document. And when you type it in your search engine, you will, in your search bar is also known as an omnibox. Okay. A search bar is also known as an omnibox, and you can find any kind of information you require by typing it on the omnibox. So the first part, HTTP, is the protocol. HTTP is the protocol of a document, of a URL. What kind of guidelines does it follow? So we have two types of protocols, which is HTTP or HTTPS. So HTTPS is a result of an added level of security. You have the normal HTTP added with secure socket layer gives you HTTPS, right? So it's more secure to use a website which has the HTTPS protocol. And to know that, this is one way to know that this website is a secure one. Then you have the subdomain, and then this entire part is known as the resource name. Resource name meaning, or the domain name, where or what is the name of the server that you're looking at. .com, top level domain. So the .com or your top level domain determines where in your search results your output is going to appear. So generally, if you have a .com top level domain, your search results with search engine optimization will appear on top. Search engine optimization means you make your website organically come to the top of the results. You can do a paid boosting, but using search engine optimization, using very common words that people use to search for a document, you can get onto the top of the results. Index.html, this is the name of the document. So sometimes you will see more extended text, and then it will come to index.html. That means you have to go through multiple folders in different servers, or multiple folders to get through to your particular document. These are a parts of a URL. And then few concepts you need to know is about, one is the IP address. The IP address is actually, let's say, the name or the address of your computer as understood by your computer. So it comes in something like this. It's called dotted decimal notation. Okay. dotted decimal notation, and it has 4 numbers separated by 3 decimal places. There are 2 versions of IP addresses, IP version 4 and IP version 6. So IP version 4 is almost running out of addresses because there are so much of IP addresses out there. So for that reason, there came about an IP version 6 which could hold billions of IP addresses. Okay, so now the problem is, if you were to search something on Google, can you type an IP address and search for it? Is that a practical approach? No, you can't, right? Because you're not like you can memorize IP addresses of all websites that are they are ever found, no? So to make things easier, there is something called a domain name. So whatever server, like now let's say facebook.com will also have a corresponding IP address. Okay, so your computer will understand the facebook.com part. Your computer will understand the IP address part. Now the thing here is, you need somebody to map both IP addresses and domain names. And that is done by somebody called the domain name server, the DNS. So when you send out a request like this, www.example.com, it first goes to the domain name server. From the domain name server, it will check for the correct IP address, and then it will come back to you. The correct IP address will come, and your browser will send that IP address out there, and then as a response, you will get your web document. This is what a domain name server does. Okay, it maps IP addresses with the relevant domain names. Then, as a result of World Wide Web, so now who can tell me who is the father of the World Wide Web? Who is the father of the World Wide Web? Pretty sure you all know this. No response whatsoever. It is yes, it's Mr. Tim Berners-Lee. So what he introduced the World Wide Web, and as a result, we have multiple services that we can obtain from the World Wide Web, some of which I'm going to list here now. Okay, now the World Wide Web is a combination of web sites, which is a combination of web pages, which is a combination of relevant text, images, videos, and hyperlinks. Okay, so these, a combination of text, images, videos, and hyperlinks will give you a web page. A combination of web pages will give you a website. So now there are different services offered by websites or World Wide Web to us. Okay, one of which is called FTP, File Transfer Protocol. So what happens with File Transfer Protocol is, now some areas will say example, only where necessary you will need to write examples, but not for everything, but everything has a description, of course. Okay, or anything additional notes you can take down in that example area if no examples are relevant. So File Transfer Protocol is the system where you use to upload files to a server. Okay, now in an email, you can only transfer maximum 25 MB at a time. So if you can't, obviously then you can't send anything larger than that. How do you think we send you all these Zoom recordings via email? We send it to you as a Google Drive link. So when we upload these documents out there, we do something called a file transfer protocol. Then you have what we call remote access. Okay. Remote access means you're accessing one computer from another's place. Now, the kids in my class we've done it together where you don't have a means to do a practical. You have got access to use my computer, and you all have got the chance to, we have got the chance, all of us have got the chance to do practicals together. Okay, so that is remote access. So you can use softwares like what is it called, team viewer. Even Zoom allows remote access to a certain extent. Okay. Resource sharing. What happens with resource sharing is you have one single document, and this document will be shared across hundreds and thousands of people to be accessed. For example, your O-level results being released on the website. So a huge bottleneck is created because now we don't have the facility in Sri Lanka to accommodate so many. So I suggest when you get your O-level results, inshallah, one fine day, check them as soon as you hear that the results are released. If not, what happens is after a certain time, the website gets so crowded, there's so much of traffic that you have to wait and wait and wait for time for you to be able to access your results, to check your results. So that is an example of resource sharing. So what the Department of Examinations does is they upload your result file online, and then you have to search for your results from there, and you'll be able to see it, of course. Okay, resource sharing. Then you have streaming media. So websites like YouTube, Netflix, what do? They stream media for you. You can watch movies, you can watch TV series, you can watch documentaries, anything online, provided you have internet connection. It works on your internet. Like, of course, but YouTube recently launched this whole downloading the videos, but these downloads only are within YouTube, not, it's not downloaded directly to your device just like that. So what you see over here is a list of web browsers. Okay, web browsers.